Can one book deal a crushing blow to the fortune of an entire people? Yes, if you are Muslims. And the book's name is The Incoherence of the Philosophers or Tafatul Philosopher in Arabic. The book was written by the 11th century Muslim theologian turned Sufi al-Ghazali to prove that religion and philosophy or revelation and reason are incompatible. Now the question is why Ghazali came out with such a destructive work. For the answer we need to go back to medieval Islam. The 10th and 11th centuries saw considerable development of Muslim philosophy, which gave a unique interpretation to traditional Islamic beliefs. According to al-Farabi, who was one of the earliest eminent Muslim philosophers, God did not create the world in time and that heavenly bodies move from all eternity. This view of the eternity of the world was in conflict with the orthodox view of God's creation of the world in time. Al-Farabi also held that revealed religions and philosophers teach the same truth. The only difference is that religions make use of symbols to appeal to the common people. Farabi's views were developed by later Muslim philosophers, notably Ibn Sina, who is known in the West as Avicenna. Avicenna also denied bodily resurrection in the hereafter and God's knowledge of particulars, including both individual and events, and held instead that God knows only universals. How did Ghazali refute philosophers? Ghazali's basic thesis is that none of the conclusions of the philosophers, which they held in opposition to orthodox beliefs, has any logical necessity or is demonstratively proven. According to Ghazali, the philosopher's argument rests upon unproven assumptions. Ghazali concedes that while some of the philosophical teachings may be sound or even contain some truth, they are not demonstrated or proved. The ultimate source of the philosopher's knowledge, according to Ghazali, about God's nature or human soul is revelations, which they claim to have discovered by reason. Since the philosophical teachings, including eternity of the world and denial of God's knowledge of particulars and bodily resurrection, conflict with the content of the revelation, they are dangerous. That is why Ghazali declared that anyone who holds these three positions is an unbeliever and an apostate from Islam who can be killed. Ghazali thus defined the limits of religious tolerance of speculative thinking. Philosophers, according to him, are free to speculate as long as they do not question the orthodox interpretation of the content of revelation. You are watching Wisdom of Life. Ghazali came up with a twofold criterion to test religious and philosophical truths. Number one, do not reject a religious truth unless its rejection is a logical necessity. And number two, do not accept a philosophical truth unless its acceptance is a logical necessity. Now, a statement or notion is logically necessary if its obverse is impossible to accept. Take an example. The statement, a black cat is a cat. Now, its obverse will be, a black cat isn't a cat, which is simply not possible. Another example, 2 plus 2 make 4. Its obverse will be, 2 plus 2 do not make 4. Again, this statement cannot be accepted. Take another statement, a thing cannot both exist and not exist at the same time. Its obverse will be, a thing can both exist and not exist at the same time, which also logically we cannot accept. Thus, ideas are necessarily true or false by definition, and statements are necessarily true or false by the way they are constructed. Few of any philosophical ideas, it's clear, or statements are necessarily true, and few, if any, religious truths, if we apply the same test, are necessarily false. Acceptance of Ghazali's twofold criterion of truth leads necessarily to the conclusion that all philosophy is false or misleading. Al-Ghazali, in his book The Incoherence of the Philosophers, also presented the theory of occasionalism. Developed by Asharism, which was an anti-rationalistic theological cum mystical school, occasionalism held that all events are caused directly by God. For example, according to them, fire doesn't cause burning of paper, divine will does. The same goes for other physical, chemical, or biological changes, phenomena, or processes. Now, the very purpose of science is to discover causal connection between variables. If God is the cause of all change, then there is no need for science. Thus, with one stroke, Ghazali eliminated the need for both philosophy or critical thinking and science. Not only that, he declared philosophy dangerous or heretical. Occasionalism was politically motivated. This theory was presented to justify the corrupt and oppressive Abbasid rule. The theory enabled the Abbasid emperors, who claimed to be representative of God, to evade responsibility for all their questionable acts. The 12th century onward, both philosophy and science rapidly declined in Muslim world until the spirit of critical thinking and free inquiry almost vanished. In the 12th century, Averroes or Ibn Rushd made a valiant attempt to defend philosophy against theologians and mystics like al-Ghazali in his book The Incoherence of Incoherence. However, he was fighting a losing cause. He was attacked by the mob, his books publicly burnt, and he was banished. Averroes thus died a broken man in 1198. Treating critical thinking as heretical thus became a powerful tool in hands of autocratic Muslim rulers. Subsequently, the clerics like Ghazali and their political patrons won, while philosophy and science declined in the Muslim world, and with that, the fortune of Muslims also tumbled. I trust you like this video. You are requested to please subscribe to my channel, Wisdom of Life. Thanks for watching.